Welcome back. As you know, I'm Eli, the computer guy, here for the Daily Blob, where I say, oh my God, can you believe it? Can you believe it? The Chinese people have been insulted by how whitey in the United States is trying to treat them. What? No. Oh my God. I can't imagine that. When Lutnick comes out and crows about the fact that we're going to sell them the fourth best AI hardware, right? When the administration comes out and says that we're going to addict the Chinese people to our artificial intelligence systems, I just cannot imagine why the Chinese would feel insulted over that. It's a weird thing. It's almost like Chinaman is a real person too, which, of course, we know that's not the truth. We know that's not the case. We hold these truths to be self-evident. That ain't a person. God damn it. Anyway, so I think this is an interesting story because it kind of shows the disaster in trade policy and artificial intelligence and all kinds of stuff going on right now. So the last couple of administrations, right? The Biden administration, the Trump administration has talked about how artificial intelligence is like the key to American success going into the future. For some reason, again, not houses, not hospitals, not affordable education. None of that matters. It's all AI. And because AI is so important, we have to worry about Chinaman getting their hands on AI. So Biden had the AI diffusion rule, where he tried to restrict what AI hardware could be shipped to China. Literally was thinking about doing export controls on models. And we're like, wait a minute, isn't a model just code or just text essentially? A file? Yes. He wanted to try to do export controls on open source files. That's how fucking stupid our presidents are. Anyways, Trump comes into office, he puts in a complete export ban, so nothing can get shipped to China. But then China's like, well, F you, we're not going to ship you rare earth minerals. And then so Trump tries to walk it back and says, well, okay, Nvidia can sell the H20 chip. But then after all of this kind of stuff, as I've said, the administration comes out and just says some glaringly stupid shit, right? What the fuck is Lutnick? What the fuck is like, oh, you listen to Lutnick and you're just like, this cannot be real. Anyways, and so China is a bit insulted and a bit concerned about the equipment that we want to send to them. And so they don't want it so much anymore. And so what's kind of curious here is Nvidia. So Nvidia had somewhere on the order of something like 500,000 of these H20 AI chips. They had something like 200,000 more in production. And when the export ban was lifted, they then they ordered another 300,000 of these H20 chips to be produced, so they could sell 1 million plus of these H20 chips to China. And now it appears China doesn't want them. China doesn't want them because I wonder why. It's almost like the Chinese people are acting like human beings. And so we have this now from CNBC. Nvidia looking to halt H20 chip production after China cracks down on purchases, report says. So now it looks like Nvidia is trying to halt their H20 chip production because China doesn't want our fourth best crap. Nvidia has asked some of its component suppliers to stop production related to its made-for-China H20 graphics processing units as Beijing cracks down on the American chip darling. The directive comes weeks after the Chinese government told local tech companies to stop buying the chips due to alleged security concerns, the report said, citing people with knowledge. Nvidia has reportedly asked Arizona-based Amkor Technology, which handles the advanced packaging of the company's H20 chips, and South Korea's Samsung Electronics Xbox, which supplies memory for them, to halt production. A separate report from Reuters, citing sources, said Nvidia had asked Foxconn to suspend work related to the H20s. The news further throws the return of the H20s to China market into doubt after Washington said it would issue export licenses to allow the export of the chip to China after their shipments had effectively been banned in April. Beijing has raised concerns that the chips could have certain tracking technology or backdoors, allowing them to be operated remotely. The interesting thing with the tracking technology, as I talked about this in a previous video, is it does appear that our intelligence agencies, in fact, did try to install tracking technology onto the chips. And that's the weird thing with this, is like Nvidia, Jensen Huang comes out and says, we didn't do it. Yeah, but our intelligence agency did. And if our intelligence agencies are able to put tracking mechanisms onto like the actual equipment, how hard would it be to add just a couple of additional things there? In May, a Republican U.S. Senator, Tom Cotton, said a bipartisan group of U.S. House representatives introduced the Chip Security Act that would require semiconductor companies like Nvidia to include security mechanisms and location verifications in their AI chips. And think about how horrifying that would be for nation states, right? So you think about these AI chips. What are you using these AI chips for? Everything from weather modeling to weapon systems to all kinds of different things. And they're very expensive, right? A single like Nvidia AI server can be $200,000, right? So you're going to put that into protected locations. Now imagine you put it into a protected location and it basically broadcasts exactly where that location is. Does that seem like something anybody would want to touch? If you're the CTO, if you're a CEO of a tech company that's not in the United States, what is your risk tolerance for American hardware basically beaconing the location of equipment? Does that sound something like you're going to be comfortable with? Speaking to reporters in Taiwan on Friday, Nvidia CEO Jensen Huang acknowledged that China had asked questions about security backdoors and that the company had made it clear they do not exist. Are you sure they don't exist? I'm not sure I'd bet $5 on that one. Did you create them? Did Nvidia create the backdoors? Probably not. I'd say probably. I put $5 no, right? Did the equipment, right, get intercepted on the way to the final party and something be added? That's something that becomes more questionable. Quote, hopefully the response that we've given the Chinese government will be sufficient. We're in discussions with them, he said, adding that Nvidia had been, quote, surprised by the queries. The only way you could be fucking surprised by that query is if you're a fucking moron. If you're a fucking moron. We're surprised. Why would the Chinese government think the hardware is tracked and there's backdoors? I mean, why would they possibly ever think this? It is interesting. I'm reading this book called The House of Huawei. Very good book. I'm almost to the end of it, so I would highly recommend it. And it talks about Huawei. And it also talks about the whole technology industry, like from the Chinese point of view. It is written by an American, so take that with a grain of salt. But it seems relatively balanced for the Chinese point of view. And one of the things that they were talking about is when so much Huawei equipment was compromised by the NSA. Right. The U.S. government was like, the Chinese government is using Huawei equipment to spy on the world. And then we come to find out the NSA was using Huawei equipment to spy on the world. So I have no idea why Jensen Huang would be surprised by these questions. If he is, he might have been sniffing the soldering fumes too much. Quote, as you know, Beijing requested and urged us to secure licenses for the H20s for some time, and I've worked quite hard to help them secure the licenses, and so hopefully this will be resolved, he said. It added, as both governments recognize, the H20 is not a military product or for government infrastructure. This is one of the other things that I find really weird whenever we talk about this kind of like technology hardware. When they start talking about what it is or isn't for. This is for military use. This is for civilian use. No, it's just hardware. It's just hardware, right? Is this civilian hardware or is this military hardware? I think about this. There's a good book. I think it was called When the Heavens Went on Sale. It was talking about all these different space companies. And one of the space companies basically realized for putting satellites into orbit, right, that hardware that was certified for space was incredibly expensive. Like, so this, let's say this is a $100 Raspberry Pi. If I wanted a Raspberry Pi that was like certified for space, it would cost like $100,000. And not even a snark on it. Like, look, there's a lot of ripoff there, but there's also isn't, right? In order to harden it from the cosmic rays and do all kinds of other stuff to it, to verify that this will continue to work in space, it requires a lot of additional things. That's where if you go to Cisco, right? If you go and you buy Cisco equipment, there's Cisco equipment that's built to be put into a server room. There's Cisco equipment that's built to be put into light industrial facilities, and there's hardened Cisco equipment that you can literally put down in Antarctica and will run fine, right? Literally, the cost of the hardened equipment versus just the normal equipment is like 10 or 20x. But the point is that if you're going to have like an access point sitting outside in the Antarctic, a lot of what makes it do what it does isn't the normal circuitry. It's all the hardening and heating and all of that kind of thing. But anyways, the curious thing is they were talking about, I think it was called Planet Labs. Planet Labs realized that civilian equipment nowadays is actually robust enough that most of the time, a good chunk of the time, it will work fine in space. And so what they realized is they could save a lot of money by buying off-the-shelf technology, but then just putting a hell of a lot more of it up in space, right? If you expect 10% of your satellites to fail as soon as they launch, you simply build 10% more. And what they found is that was an incredible cost savings, right? And so they're using civilian, normal civilian hardware essentially for basically spy satellites. They're surveillance satellites that spin all around the planet, constantly collecting images, and it's some really pretty cool stuff. But the idea there is that normal off-the-shelf civilian equipment can now be sent to space. And as long as you plan for it, right? Planning, that's what we get paid for. As long as you plan for it properly, should work out pretty fine. And as we've seen, like Ukraine now, right? They're using the equivalent of DJI drones, right? Taking $100, $200 drones that you would have used to take selfies or whatever, and they're using that to deliver thermite grenades. So one of the interesting questions here is when we talk about things that are for or aren't for, things like military products, I do have a big question about what that actually means, right? I can use this to run a digital display. I can use this to run a computer. I can use this to run a robot car, or it could be the guidance package for a cruise missile, right? You want to get really creeped out? Start watching the RC plane channels on YouTube, and then just start asking a very basic question. What if you added the equivalent of Raspberry Pi for a compute, added GPS, added a vision system, and then just, I don't know, added 20 pounds of something? How comfortable do you still feel? So that's why it's so weird. Like this whole argument about we have to keep them from getting AI because of the military. It's not really how technology works, right? Think about the value of spreadsheets. Think about the value of spreadsheets in the military, right? How have spreadsheets revolutionized the military? It sounds fucking stupid, but it's stupidly true, right? Everybody needs to use spreadsheets. Imagine if the U.S. government tried to prevent the Chinese military from accessing spreadsheets. They said, spreadsheets is a technology that goes too far. The military could use it to improve their efficiency multiple fold. Ergo, we are not going to allow spreadsheets to be sent to China. That would be kind of dumb, wouldn't it? That's what I feel like with this whole AI stuff. Anyways. China won't rely on American chips for government operations, just like the U.S. government would not rely on chips from China. However, allowing U.S. chips for beneficial commercial business use is good for everyone. Let's see here. Qiang Lin, a senior analyst covering China semiconductors at Bernstein, told CNBC in an email that if China completely bans the H20s, it would put Nvidia's over $20 billion of annual sales in China at risk. So this is the other weird thing with the Trump administration, right? There's this whole, we have to restore production so we can own the production and all this kind of stuff. But so many of his policies are actually destroying our own production of things. So with this, if China doesn't want the H20s, that's $20 billion in annual sales that might go down the toilet. Assuming the company is still allowed to sell less advanced chips than H20 in the market, it should be able to capture some revenue in 2026, but demand will be further limited in 2027 as local supply capabilities ramp up. Chip industry analysts have also said Beijing's actions appear to reinforce its commitment to its own chip self-sufficiency campaigns and its intention to resist the Trump administration's plan to keep American AI hardware dominant in China. So there we go. So this is a bit more of the push and pull between the United States and China. This is yet another chapter in how the United States is fucking destroying its place in the world order. Oh, it used to be much more. I used to love to laugh at the Brits. It's like, yeah, how does it feel? How does it feel to know for your grandfather's generation, the sun never set on the British Empire? And for your generation, you fuckers may not even own the entire island you're on pretty soon. I used to laugh. I used to love to laugh at the Brits over that stupidity. God help me. I didn't realize our politicians would follow suit. So it'll be curious to see exactly how this plays out and how things go. Have we pushed China to the point, basically, of no return? That's one of the things I talk about, with Zig Ziglar. It's not the steak, it's the sizzle. You sell the sizzle, not the steak. One of my big concerns is, like, with buying products, so much of it is lifestyle brand, right? Why do you buy Patagonia over North Face over a jacket from Walmart? Right, a $20 jacket from Walmart, and a $100 North Face, and a $200 Patagonia, basically the same goddamn thing, right? Now look, if you're actually doing an expedition, if you're actually going up to Everest, you need better equipment. You're not going up Everest. No offense, but you ain't, right? Here's the fact of the matter. For most people with their use cases, a Walmart jacket, a North Face, and a Patagonia, it has the same results for you. It keeps you warm. The reason that you spend more money is that lifestyle brand. I am a Patagonia person. I am a North Face person. I am a Walmart person, right? And you can be prideful about Walmart. Listen to Louis Rossman. Louis Rossman is very prideful about Walmart. He is very proud of his Walmart clothing. God bless, right? Because it says who you are, right? This is what I value. The issue is just like you can say that crap about clothing or cars or whatever else, the same thing is true with a lot of stuff in technology. Like why are things sexy and exciting? I remember in the 1980s, right? When Japan was the cool society, right? That was the country we thought was going to take over the world until it didn't, right? And so that was the thing. Like you could have like American stuff, RCA was still back then. I don't know what the hell we had. Anyways, we had like American electronic companies, but then you had like Sony, right? And if you looked at a tape player, like if you looked at a tape player and you looked at an RCA tape player or you looked at a fucking Sony tape player, man, Sony just looked like the future, right? Damn, that's what I want to present to the world. It's a fucking tape player. This is a tape player. This is a tape player. This tape player might actually be functionally better. But look at that. Yeah. Looks like my grandpa's fucking tape player. I don't want my fucking grandpa's tape player. I want a cyberpunk tape player. Anyways, simpler days, simpler times, right? And that's a big thing, like how we individually choose to buy things and how we decide to buy things, at scale. And so it was kind of curious with this whole AI thing and how we're treating, and the absolute disrespect we're using towards China. Like it's to a fucking weird degree. they're not my adversary. Can I be clear? Look, I understand why Taiwanese are concerned. I understand why the Hong Kongers might be pissed off, but they're not my adversaries. But even if we're going to say that we're adversarial nations, which doesn't make a goddamn bit of sense, but whatever. Like, how abjectly insulting our administration is being towards the people of China literally doesn't make sense, right? So many times in the past, right? The idea has been is we hate your leaders, we love you, right? The whole idea of regime change. We don't have a problem with you, we have a problem with your leaders. Again, not saying we should be doing that shit either, but at least that made a little bit more sense. With this whole thing of how the Trump administration is approaching China, it's that we fucking hate the Chinese, right? You can't, there's a difference between saying you can't trust a government official from a country and saying basically you can't trust anybody from this country, right? The whole thing where Trump wanted to chuck out hundreds of thousands of Chinese students just because they are a threat to our country. Simply by where you are born, you are a threat to this country, right? The talk about addiction, right? It's not that they want to make the Chinese addicted to the Chinese addicted to our technology. The thought of the Chinese are so fucking stupid that they will lap up our fourth best AI hardware. Like, at what point does that just turn the Chinese against us? Period. Even if, and I'll say even if we have better hardware at a better price point, and even if they can buy it, at what point just does it become disgusting and despicable to consume that type of thing? Like, oh, you use American hardware, right? That's my concern going forward. So what do you think about this? What do you think about Nvidia halting H20 chip production because China is cracking down and saying, we don't want your crap? What do you think about how the Trump administration is dealing with China just in general? How do you think America is dealing with China in general over the past decade and a half? I don't know. Put your thoughts down below. Give us a thumbs up, give us a thumbs down. Say I'm amazing, say I'm horrible. Just do it down in the comment section. And with that, see y'all later.